district? You know, is it because of something the school board's doing or not doing? So it's important for me personally, that's where I like to start. And then of course the mayor of the town I live in, and it just goes on from there. Oh, and then you finally get to the president, but you made your way through the whole ballot. So those of you that are voting or have already voted, this is a good example of what's every election. Like I said, we vote every 2 years. Now, the president is every 4 years, so in 2026, the president won't be on the ballot, but the governor of Arizona will be. Big office, that's a big one. So they spread it out so we can handle it all, because there's just a lot on there. So what I wanted to just quickly go over is, this is our stuff, vote, but the candidates. The ballot will have 3 big components to it. Candidates, that's all the races. So you've got, you know, president, vice president, all the statewide races, state legislature, we have 30.
Hello cả nhà nha, em đang học.
City, school boards.
Đang học đó.
These are all the ones where individual citizens, just like us, have taken their life, put a pin in it, and decided to run to represent us during policy positions such as I mentioned, housing, transportation, tuition, healthcare, wages, community services, all of that. There's a lot of people at the state level who are very passionate about supporting their causes or policy positions. And our job as citizens is to find the ones that represent our values and vote for them. Or sometimes nobody's representing it all, but they might have a piece of it that you're like, okay, I don't like that part, but I do like this part. It's important to vote. And then let that person know what your positions are. So that is the candidates.
No, that's not me.
This is judges. A lot of people overlook this section of the ballot, and I don't know why. I don't know about you all, but fortunately I haven't had too many issues with judges. But the judges interpret the law. They decide your guilt or innocence. I mean, a jury does, but the judge has a particular, they oversee the process, and they have incredible power. Guess who has more power than judges? We do. Every one of the judges at Arizona Superior Court and State Supreme Court are on the ballot every 2 years. We can vote them out. They're appointed by the legislature, but the citizens, every 2 years, we can vote them out. And there are online services like judicial review. Some of these judges get in trouble with the Arizona Bar Association. Some of them are terrible judges. They shouldn't be in there. They don't know the law. They're super biased towards an ethnic group or a certain partisan politics. The people can figure that out, and we vote them out, or we vote them to stay in if we like what they're doing and we think they're doing a good job. Judges are extremely important, and they're on the ballot every 2 years. The last area is propositions. The state has propositions. For example, right now we have a proposition on abortion. Some citizens didn't like what the abortion laws were going on in Arizona, the restrictions and whatnot. It's a long story, I won't bore you with it. However, they organized and they went out and got like 700,000 Arizonans to agree with them that at a minimum the voters should decide this issue, not the legislature. So when you vote this time, you will have an opportunity to support or oppose this ballot proposition on women's reproductive health, abortion, the whole issue. It's a complicated issue, and it's very emotional and can be a difficult decision for voters, or maybe not. But the point is that we as citizens have an opportunity. We have a constitutional right in Arizona, based on the Arizona Constitution, to do what we call citizens initiatives. There's 2 of them on the ballot this year, and the rest are on the ballot. The legislature put them on the ballot, which is a whole nother process that probably won't go into. Let me stop there and just ask if there are any questions about how our government looks in terms of structure and how important voting is to decide who all of the government is. Any questions on that? Elections, okay, so, yes,
Can you explain for everybody, what is a school board?
what is a school board?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows what a school board.
Yes. So I have a kid at Cactus Shadow High School in the Cave Creek Unified School District. And that school district has one high school, one middle school, and about 8 elementary schools, and they all feed into this, and they all go like that. So the school board is elected by the citizens of that district. You can't vote for them if you don't live there. You don't have to have a kid go to school there, you just have to basically live in this district. And then, the school board is typically made up of parents, teachers, interested community business leaders, other, retirees, people who are interested in what is being taught at the schools, how the school budgets are managed, who decides the pay for the teachers and the support services and the administration. The school board determines all of that. So the quality of my daughter's education is directly linked to who I vote for on the school board. And that's how that works. And that is democracy at its smallest component, really, in a public setting. That's all taxpayer dollars. The public education is paid for. Those are citizens who are volunteering. You don't get paid to be on the school board. It's a volunteer job. It's kind of thankless. It's long hours in meetings. It can be contentious with parents not happy about how something's going with the curriculum, or, there's a ton of issues involving education. So I hope that answered your question.
I kind of think of it like the Congress, but only for your school.
It is. It's exactly it, because even though each school board member doesn't represent only part of the district's population, they all represent everybody. So it's not cut up in pieces like the legislative body would be. But what's great about it is I can go down as a parent to any school board meeting. We have open meeting laws in Arizona. I can go listen, I can stand up and talk, I can present my point of view, I can do nothing, or I can do a lot. And that's a great power to have. It's phenomenal. If you have kids in school and they are in a public school, there's a school board. There is a school board. And if you're interested in what your kids are learning, how they're treated at school, the quality of their teachers, how the money is spent, is it spent all on a principal, or do they have really good math teachers that they invested in bringing into the district? There's a lot of decisions to be made. And us as parents, or even just citizens, you have a right to go down there and express yourself, because you're a taxpayer and you're a citizen in that district. Okay. So this is just kind of what we're talking about. You get to elect who represents you. Thomas wanted me to talk about the electoral college, and this is at the federal level. Are anybody familiar with what the electoral college is? Have you ever wondered, or do you even know, that the President of the United States is not chosen by the popular vote? Do you guys know that? Yes, you have a question, or just acknowledging? Okay. I'll show you the history on it, but it was back in the early times here. Let me tell you what it is first. So you have at the federal level, so the Washington D.C. level, we have 9 representatives. They're called congressional districts. The one for this, I learned yesterday that Schweikert CD1 goes out this far. I didn't realize it came this far. I'm in CD1. David Schweikert has been my representative for, I think, 20 years. And there's 8 others in the state. So we get 9 electoral votes plus our 2 senators. So we get 11 electors for the state of Arizona. And by law, they have to go to Washington with whoever won the popular vote in Arizona. So in 2020, Joe Biden won by like almost 12,000. So those 11 electors, which are appointed way before the election occurs by the legislature, that we all vote in, they appointed 11 electors. The results came in, it came in at 20,000 sorry, that wasn't that high, it was like 11,000, sorry. Thinking of Pennsylvania somewhere. Those 11 electors signed a certificate that said, all 11 votes from Arizona go to Joe Biden. And then somebody couried it over to Washington, and then the vice president, all 50 states show up with their electors, and that's how we certify who's the next president of the United States. So that's how that happens. In America, right now, it takes 270 electoral votes to become president of the United States. Any questions on how that kind of works? So when you're watching on election night, and it might actually take a few days after, the popular vote is interesting, but what you really want to be counting is the electoral votes. Which candidate is getting the most electoral votes? And then that's who will be named president of the United States out of the two candidates that we currently have. Actually, there's three. I take that back. There is I believe I can't remember if she's the Green Party or she's Green, I can't remember. It's Jill Stein is the third candidate. So my apologies to the Green Party. Okay. This is an important factor. Winner takes all. Even though in Arizona, I don't remember the math anymore, but a lot of people voted for Donald Trump in Arizona in 2020. But just 11,000 more voted for Joe. But Joe Biden got all 11 electors. They didn't split it up 4-5, 3-9, 3-6. They didn't do that. They all go by law. This has all been determined like decades ago. Every state is like that, but two. Nebraska and I believe Maine actually divvy up their electoral votes based on population, or based on how the vote came out. So if it's a 60-30, that's how they split it. They have a formula to help them out with that. So let's see here. Electoral college. This is kind of an interesting history, I think. So people are like, well, why do you guys do it that way? Why don't you just do just popular vote? This person gets 80 million votes, this person gets 81 million. There's your president. Why not do it that way? Well, because back in the 1700s, the southern states, there was only, 13 states? There was only 13 states, and here's the general population of the states. There was almost 1.1 million free people and 1.7 million free people in the northern states. So from a popular vote standpoint, these 8 states would rule everything. The southern states didn't like that, and they had 632,000 enslaved people. So they said, hey, we want to be able to count those. They can't vote, but we want to be able to count them in our tally of population. So they came up with this formula, and this is the root of the historical basis for why this country uses an electoral college instead of a popular vote. It's because the southern states in 1787, they wanted the power of the people that lived in those states, but they didn't want to give them the vote. See, there's a big difference there. They didn't want them voting, but they did want them to count towards their ability to use those votes to influence federal issues. So that's why the Electoral College exists. This is just a great quote from James Madison, and I think the salient part of it is, the institution of slavery and its consequences form the line of discrimination. It's kind of a heavy message, but it's really powerful. And there certainly exists some issues with this today. So, there's a lot of chatter going on in the country about the Electoral College. First of all, its history. We've had, I believe, 3 elections in the last 25 years where the person who won the popular vote did not win the presidency. So that's problematic. And I think you can see this today pretty clearly. All the states are figuring this out. There's only about 6-7 states that actually matter in the voting because of the Electoral College. They call them swing states. Arizona happens to be one of them. So the other 42 states, 47 or 43 states, they're just kind of standing around on the sidelines watching all the action go on. And they're frustrated with that. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you want your vote You want one person, one vote. So, there could be, a pretty significant push in the near future to change the Constitution. They actually put the Electoral College in the Constitution back in 1787. So it's enshrined there. Doesn't mean that it can't be changed. I hear people say, oh, you can't change the US Constitution, it's just a rock bed document. Actually, no, there's been 27 amendments to the United States Constitution in 240 years, so it can be done. And the founders said it should be done. That document was written in the mid-1700s, you know. So they told in their writings and journals, they said, it's a living document. It needs to be updated and kept fresh and stay with the country. And for the most part, it has. This is one issue where it may not have. We would need a constitutional amendment to change our way of electing the president to a national popular vote. It's possible. It's going to be a challenge, though, if you're interested in that, and this would be for any issue, not just the Electoral College. It's an uphill battle. You need to get the 2/3 vote in the House and Senate. We can hardly get a majority, 51 to 49 on any issues in this country. So getting 2/3 of the Senate and House to agree on anything is an uphill challenge. It can be done, though. It has been done. And then after that, it goes to the people of the United States through their legislators. You have to have 3/4 of them ratify it. A great example of when this happened was the 14th and 15th Amendments, abolishing slavery and giving black men the right to vote. Another one was the ERA in the 70s, Equal Rights Amendment for women. They got it all the way up to here, and 36 states ratified it, and it stalled. And it's been sitting there for, what is that, about 40 years? Basically, it's a pretty simple change in the Constitution that women are equal to men, basically, is what it says. And should be treated as such on all at the federal level on all matters. So it's a bit of a challenge, but we can do it as people if we want to. We can do that. We can do anything we set our minds to. Any questions about how the Electoral College works, or anything about amendments to the Constitution? Any questions around that? I have one more segment. Hang in there. I'm almost finished. But I want to talk about something that's really important to me as a woman, and that's my right to vote. Women, I was taught in high school or wherever that women got the right to vote in 1920. That's not actually true. Let me ask you guys a couple of questions. When did women get the right to vote? I just said it. So those of you paying attention, what's the right answer? 1920. Okay. When was the League of Women Voters founded? Was it before or after the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote? Before? After. Correct. Immediately after. The League of Women Voters was founded to help women with their new rights. When did women get the right to vote in Arizona? Which one of these? 1912, 1918, or 1920? 1918. 1918? Anybody think 1912? Yeah. Who thinks 1912? Bingo. Wish I had a prize for you. I don't. Here's why. Women were given the right to vote at all state elections in 1912 through the Arizona Constitution when Arizona became a state in 1912. Here's why they did that. You think it's some noble reason? Not for exactly. Back then, Arizona was a territory. It was the Wild West. The people who were here trying to set up the government wanted women to move to the West. And all the women back east were just a hornet's nest about getting the right to vote. They'd spent decades fighting for the right to vote, and they were struggling. So Arizona said, hey, we'll give you the right to vote on anything involving the state, which is school boards, city councils, mayors, all the stuff that really affect your local life. So it actually worked. There were a handful of states that did this. Wyoming was one, I think one of the Dakotas, I can't remember. They actually put in their constitution when they became states that women got the right to vote. So it's kind of a cool little fact there. But you couldn't vote for the president. It was only state issues. You women still couldn't vote for that. This is just a little timeline of the history of voting in Arizona for women. And by the way, this is what the amendment actually, this is all it is. All that heartache, decades, people beaten, raped, put to jail, killed, turned away at the polls, lit on fire, literally. Over 100 years, women fought for the right to vote in this country. They finally got it, and this is the only change to the Constitution. That the right of citizens shall not be denied or abridged on account of sex. That's it. Well, guess what? It's not that easy. The new law did not prevent people from discriminating against women. In fact, the only women who got to vote in 1920 as a result of this constitutional amendment were white women of means, meaning they were property owners or they were married to somebody who owned property. So it was wealthy white women, basically, and they got the right to vote. So if you were a not wealthy white person or a person of color who tried to go vote in 1920, you were turned away at the ballot. They just wouldn't give you a ballot. And if you pushed the issue, they put you in jail, or they spurned you. You were pushed away, and there was no recourse. You had no one to go to complain to. You had no one to help you enforce this law, this here. So voting in every group in this country has a voting history that's very similar. Whether you're Asian, indigenous, Hispanic, have money, don't have money, all of that. They all have a story that is just like this, and it's going on today. There was a lot of work done to help people get these rights, and one of the main things that occurred in 1965, so is that 45 years after women got the right to vote? 45 years, that's like 2 generations. The 1965 Voting Rights Act was passed, and it banned voter suppression based on color, and it had other provisions as well, and it opened up power to women of color, any color, white women who didn't have means, money, they could vote, and it got better and better. A couple more amendments went in, really specifying it, because there's a reason people don't want some people voting, is because they want the power. So it's really important to understand as an American how powerful voting is. It's one of the most powerful tools we have as Americans is voting. So I just want to emphasize that every one of these groups and many others have fought and died for our rights to vote. Don't let anybody take that power away from you. Don't willingly give it to some other group, because if you don't make decisions about what's happening in your community, other people will. Don't worry, they are making decisions about what's impacting you, and you gave away your say by not voting. Here's some bad news. In 2013, unfortunately, our Supreme Court basically gutted the 1965 Voting Rights Act by removing a provision that required any state that wanted to have a voting law addition or change had to be approved by the Department of Justice. Well, there was hardly any state that could get anything through that process, because they quickly figured out that, you were trying to keep young people from voting, or African Americans from voting, or whatever they were trying to make voter ID laws so onerous that people couldn't get IDs. Or as soon as this was done in 1913, so that was, 2013. That's been is that 11 years? There has been thousands of voter laws enacted in all 50 states. And because they don't have to go do the scrutiny of the Department of Justice anymore. Arizona has, I'm not making this up, probably 20 or 30 voting laws, bills, not laws, bills, every legislative session addressing voting, trying to do something with it. Limit the amount of hours polling stations are on, removing the amount of polling, going from precinct voting to polling center voting, voter ID laws, student ID laws. There's just a bevy of that, the legislature and the governor of Arizona, since 2011, has put out there. There was one, I can't remember, I think it was Georgia, after 2020, their legislature, and I believe the governor signed this, you couldn't give water to people in line, voting. And, because the lines were so long. Can you imagine being, a voter and you're in Arizona and you're standing 6, 7, 8 hours in line in the heat, and somebody tries to give you water and that's illegal? Can you imagine? As a voting rights person, I just find that incredible that anybody would want to do that, but that the elected officials think that's a good idea too. Let's see here. All right, we're really close to the end. Let's see. I guess the really thing I want to emphasize here is our policy and our laws come from bills that the legislature puts together and the governor signs, or you vote on them in a proposition on a ballot. And these laws really impact your life, whether you're aware of it intuitively or not. So it's really important. I know it's a lot to try to keep track of, but there are groups and organizations that if you are really interested in trying to figure out more about your community, find a local community group that's politically active, that has the values and supports the policy positions that you want. You don't have to live there or work there or do anything, just get their newsletter. Just read their newsletter. You can go on our Vote 411 platform and register for our newsletter. Legal and Voters puts out a monthly newsletter about issues around this, like we've been talking about. It's free. You have the power to change anything going on in your community that you don't agree with or don't like, or wish could be better, or could be better, and you see a way to do that. All you need to do is get with like-minded citizens, get yourselves organized, and vote. That's how the democracy works, and it's extremely powerful. In fact, I have learned it's actually a small amount of citizens who can really make big changes. For example, one of my favorite examples is the minimum wage. For about 10 or 15 years, citizens kept telling the legislator, hey, the wages are too low in Arizona. $7.25 an hour was the federal minimum wage. In fact, it's still that. So the legislature, oh no, all the businesses will go bankrupt, the fast food restaurants, the entry-level job, oh no, we can't do that. So a bunch of citizens got together, got some funding, and they got a proposition on the ballot about 6 years ago, so it was probably during the 2016 or 2018 election, I don't remember. The point is, it passed. 70% of Arizonans agreed that $7.25 was too low. It had been that wage for like 15 or 18 years. It didn't move it. Inflation's gone up, prices have gone up, profits have gone up, but there was no reciprocating back to wages for the people who were helping these businesses make money. The people of Arizona, 70%, when given the opportunity to vote on it directly, said, yes, we want the wages higher. And they've been stair-stepping it up ever since that election, and right now it's at $14.35. I only know this because I have a teenager who works. And in January, it gets to $15 an hour. If you're working in these dollar ranges, that's phenomenal. That is a huge impact from making $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour in a matter of 6 or 7 years. It's pretty significant. The point of that story is the citizens of Arizona did that. So if there's an issue that you're passionate about, find like-minded citizens. And it took them a long time to do it. It took like 10 years, but they did it. And now all the citizens of Arizona are beneficiaries of it. And even businesses who were extremely scared and worried about it. Some of them didn't make it, but many more have benefited because of the economic boost that provided by those wage earners out spending more money. I mean, it's a velocity of money thing, but that's a whole different presentation. But the point is that it can be done. It's done. Marijuana is another one. people were tired of getting, misdemeanor and criminal violations for smoking weed. Plus, the whole medical thing was taking it over. Guess what the citizens of Arizona did? They got organized, changed the law, and now we have, marijuana. Many states did that. And then the side that was opposing it figured out there's tax revenue with it. So, generating quite a bit of tax revenue. Different point of story. All right. I think that's it. So I kind of went over how you get stuff on the ballot. Are there any questions around voting or anything that I haven't talked about that you're curious about that I may have some insight into? Yes.
Do you have any idea why in Arizona they can't start counting the ballots, the mail-in ballots before election day?
The legislature decides the election processes, and there's a rule book like this thick. In fact, after the 2022 election, that whole book went through and it's bipartisan. So both parties, the governor's office, the secretary of state, a lot of interested citizen groups, they all weighed in on what that document does, and it dictates how that process works. So that's my answer, is it's not like the reporter's office is just sitting there with stacks of paper and going, when can we go? I'm sure they are, but it's done, the legislature decides that process. So that's a great question for your state or state senator or state representative, is to say, why did the legislature create the voting or the election book, playbook, to do that? Because we have, I just saw on the news last night, I think it was around 500,000 Maricopa County ballots have already been sent in, mail ballots, which is great. Wouldn't it be great if they were teed up? Could be a security issue, like election workers could say, oh, here's how the races are going. You know, they can tell, they are giving out data about whether they're Democrat, Republican, or Independent. The ballot, I saw that. They broke it down by,
Here?
well, not who you voted on. Which, whether you got a Democrat, Republican, or Independent.
A ballot.
Turned a ballot in.
Yep.
They don't have what you voted on, or
Yep.
who you voted, or all that. But they did say, I think it was, I forget the number, it was like 46% Democrat, 36 Republican, and well, the rest were independents. But that doesn't tell you how they voted.
Yeah.
And it's early. So those numbers can, really jump around as people move things in. But you're right, I think that's probably, it'd be great, because I did hear on the news last night too, that somebody from the reporter's office or Secretary of State's office said it could be up to 10 days, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
To me, it feeds the people in our community who think that the voting is not fair or free and fair because of that, how long that takes. So hopefully they're just setting that number out there, and then they can, how you, is it under-delivered, over-promise? No, over-delivered, I'm getting it wrong. It's
Promise over delivery.
under-promise, over-deliver, yeah. So I'm hoping they can, and usually in elections that aren't really tight, they will pick a winner because they can tell demographically. Like, say somebody's up 60-40, they'll call that election pretty early. But if it's 50-51, 49-50, they're not going to call that until they get all the ballots in, which could take, and I think that was the person's point, they can probably call 95% of the races within a day or two, 3 days maybe. But the presidential and the senator, well, some of the races will be so tight, they just won't be able to call them. And they'll want to get through every single ballot, so that's the way I would look at that. It's a great question, though. Any other questions about the election? Well, I really appreciate you guys' time and attention. I hope you found some value in this. And what was the #1 message that I delivered?
Vote.
Thank you.
My class will take a break.
Stay with mine. We'll be back at 10:50 in my class at 11 o'clock. Give you 10 minutes.
Bye bye cả nhà. Xong nha. Mới nghe học về bầu cử. Maribel, I already sent to you. Yes, send the link. Check that.
How are you?
I'm good.
Where are you?
Hola,
Hola.
¿cómo estás? Bien, ¿y tú?
You wasn't in the reading yesterday.
No, I over there yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in my class yesterday. I saw you yesterday. You sit on the first table.
Okay.
Hey.
I don't remember.
Why you don't remember? Oh my God.
I see you.
Oh, you didn't care about me. Oh my God. Xong rồi nha cả nhà. Đó. Tưởng đâu là học. Tưởng đâu là học có chút xíu rồi vậy ha. Tưởng đâu là học. Học rồi đi về luôn. Mém tí xíu đi về luôn rồi cả nhà. Mém tí xíu đi về bỏ trốn cái lớp này đi về. Nhưng mà ngồi lại tí xíu. Ai ngờ đâu. Bà nói xong rồi. Giờ là ngồi giải lao rồi học tiếp. Hello. Nãy giờ xí Sẵn không có chào mọi người được. Xin chào cả nhà nha. Hello. Hola. Bien, y tú? Hello, lâu lắm rồi, chị có khỏe không? Chào Thiên Nguyên Mai Sủ nha. Hôm nay đi học nha cả nhà, xí Sẵn. Lúc mà đi bộ đón xe bus á, nó ủa sao cái túi sách của mình sao mà nó nhẹ quá, không biết tại sao. Giờ khát nước mới sực nhớ thì ra là mình không có đem chai nước. Thì ra là mình không đem chai nước cho nên là mình bị khát nước. Hên có xin được cái ly để đi lấy nước. Mèn đét ơi, nhỏ nào vậy, nhỏ xí xoàn đó anh Bu. You go home now? Why? I will tell the teacher. Oh really? Okay. Hello anh Buông, em chào anh Buông nha. Trời ơi, nãy trốn về luôn là được rồi. Tự dưng ngồi lại học chi trời. Thôi đi về đi ha. Thôi không lên đâu. Thôi đi về đi ra vườn rau đi. Chắc đi ra vườn rau đi. Trốn luôn đi. Đi ra vườn rau không ta? Em nói gì anh không nghe? Sao anh không nghe? Nãy giờ em nói quá trời mà sao anh không nghe anh Buông? Hả? Nói quá trời mà kêu không nghe lằn răng. Răng không nghe. Em mở lớn mà. Hello. Em nói là bữa nay em đi học mà em thấy cái lô của em sao nó nhẹ quá. Cái em biết nói, ủa sao mình nhớ mình chuẩn bị tối hôm qua mình đi học đầy đủ rồi mà sao tự nhiên bây giờ cái ba lô mình nó nhẹ, lý do gì? Đó, cả nhà, cái điện thoại của em nó bị bể nha cả nhà, cho nên mỗi lần cái điện thoại mà nó bị chiếu bởi cái ánh đèn là nó dày nè, đó cả nhà thấy không? Gì? Đừng đưa sát quá là lan răng. Là đưa quá nhìn em mập quá hả, xấu hả? Không phải, cái bóng đèn á, cái bóng đèn cả nhà thấy không? Cái điện thoại em nó bị rớt, xong nó bị bể mà bể ác cái là ngay cái chỗ cái ống kính luôn. Nó bị bể ngay cái ống kính cho nên là nó bị nhòe á, cho nó là do cái ánh sáng trên đó thấy không? Mèn đét ơi, bờ môi đẹp nhỉ. Lại ghẹo con bé răng răng. Đừng đưa sát quá, đưa sát hay đưa gần hay gì cũng vậy thôi, cũng xấu y chang vậy mà. Giờ không biết là có lên lớp không hay là ở dưới này ta. Trời ơi, làm biến quá, biến học nha. Đã xuống rồi không muốn lên. Giờ làm sao cả nhà? Cái điện thoại em cả anh Buông thấy không, tội nghiệp không, nó bị nhòe là do nó bị rớt bể đó. Xong bây giờ Hello everyone, it's my friends, my classmate.
Yeah.
Wait.
From Russia.
Yeah, здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
I know.
Всем здравствуйте.
Yeah, здравствуйте.
Okay, bye-bye.
You don't go to school? You don't go to our class?
Did it finish?
No.
Continue?
Yeah, no, right now it's finished right here, but we have to go to class. No, come back class.
Ah,
Yeah.
still continue.
Yeah. Go.
Oh, at 11.
I think you go home. Where you go? Where did you go?
To Mike.
Huh?
Advisor.
Huh?
Mike.
Mike?
Mike. He's advisor.
Oh, okay. Talk with them. Okay, go back. Hello friends. Bà đó là người Nga. Trời ơi, em không muốn vô luôn á. Không muốn vô học. Không muốn vô học chút nào hết. Không muốn vô học. Không muốn vô học. Giờ không biết sao. Không muốn vô học. Không muốn vô học. Không muốn vô học.
Yes, we just
Wait.
got out of a, ballot talk and we'll start class at 11.
Không muốn học tí nào. We start now, teacher?
I'm sorry?
We start now or just?
No, 11.
Okay, just. I want to go home.
Don't go home. What happened?
Because
Oh, you're alive. Livestream.
livestream. Ok, bye bye cả nhà nha. Thank you cả nhà đã đến xem buổi học ngày hôm nay của Xí Sòn. Cả nhà nhớ cho em xin cái like nha. Chào tạm biệt mọi người. Bye bye. Cảm ơn cả nhà.